All right. Hello, everybody. My name is Paweł Feliński,
And I'm Maciek Kemnitz.
and welcome to our webinar. Today, we will talk about AI in operations. Before we go into the topics, few words about ourselves. Want to start?
So maybe I'm gonna start. Hello, I'm Maciej. I'm the CEO of Primotly. I'm an engineer with 14 years of engineering background from programming. Now I'm a business, finance, and technology enthusiasm.
And I'm Paweł Feliński, head of delivery at Primotly. For last over a decade, 12 or so years, I was in a bit different business, management consulting business, which among others means also that I spent a lot of time with organizations trying to help them streamline their processes, understand their processes, and understand how they can make things better, smoother in terms of both efficiency and effectiveness. And apparently, this is actually quite interesting when we talk about AI and its introductions in operations. All right, let's take a look at what we have prepared for you today. We will start just a bit about AI, not necessarily talking about what AI is. Nowadays, everybody understands it, we guess, but we want to demystify it to help us understand what we will talk about later in the webinar. Secondly, we would like to show you what is possible with AI in terms of operations company, or broadly speaking, organizations operations. We would like to introduce you to a model that I think we invented of 3 different levels of adoptions of AI in operations. We will spend some time talking about operation readiness of our organization. Are you ready? Do you need to be ready to invest into AI in your operations? Then a few words about security and compliance, and the stage is yours. Q&A that will be the end of our webinar. Let's start with the basics. So let's start from the beginning. So AI, what AI is about?
So a little bit of demystifying. Maybe it's a good idea to start with some mistakes or controversies that we had around AI lately, especially with the hype. So we had in 2024 the problem that AI couldn't count how many letters there are in the word strawberry, which seems to be a trivial task, but apparently not for AI. And even in March 2026, we had the issue that ChatGPT was recommending to take your car to the car wash, but you should go by foot. However, what a lot of people maybe don't realize is that AI is with us around for 50 or even more years. So if you could switch the slide, we have been around. For example, if we get videos recommended in Netflix or a new song in Spotify, this is done via machine learning. The same is the routing for Google Maps, how we travel. We have face recognition in our phones. We have autocomplete during typing of our messages. This is everything behind this. There's technology. It's a form of AI. However, today we are here because there was a revolution, so to say. The current hype on the market is about large language models. And to understand, to have a common language, we should understand what large language models are. If you could change the slide. So first of all, we have models, and a lot of you probably are not aware even of those models. For example, weather condition models that use data on the ground, like air pressure, wind, temperature, to predict that tomorrow there will be with 70% rain in some area. The new models are language models, which allows us to communicate with the model in plain English or other languages, which was before not possible. So here we are operating with text. It's not a vision model, so we cannot give it images. It's not a sound model, we cannot give it sound. However, it will understand human language, and Why is it a large language model? It was trained on all the data, publicly available data in the internet, and most probably a lot of books that were digitalized, or maybe all the books in the world. However, it has no access to our company data. So this is secure, and this is also a part of our talk, how we can make those data available in a secure way to the models. So an interesting thing happened. Once they trained the models on a lot of data, they showed instances of, let's say, intelligence, or at least it looks like, and this we don't really understand why, but we know that the approach is correct and that the amount of data made it possible.
I can share my story here, frankly speaking. Not a lot of people know that I graduated computer science at the beginning of the century, and one of the classes, even not my master project, was in AI, on AI. And what we did was basic recognition of road signs. It was like a decade, at least a decade before cars started to do it. So it was very simple bitmap, black and white, 16 times 16 map. And AI was way better than that we humans in recognizing signs that were like covered with mud or dust. We even introduced so-called Gaussian noise. So I couldn't tell you what the sign is about. The AI could. It was many, many, many years ago. Something has changed, I believe, mainly in hardware, not in software, that it speeded up, and now we have it everywhere, as you said. All right. Now, we talked a bit about operations. I really wonder, where do you see AI in operations?
Oh, everywhere. We can go with very simple tasks like automating a piece of, if we want to format a document, which is painful, especially in Word, or at least I remember from my studies that getting in line with documents and making headers bigger destroyed the whole format. I don't really like it. Today with AI, we can just say to Claude, please do it for me. Or email replies, where we can focus on the content, what we want to say, not how to say it politely and how to make it readable.
I think these are examples that are pretty well known to date. During our webinar, we'll show you also other not so obvious things. Before we move on, one tiny topic. Do you find yourself AI enthusiast or not really?
Not at the beginning. In 2024, I was skeptical. In
Really?
2025, at the end, I was amazed what can be done. And then starting this year, once I got it locally on my computer, I cannot stop doing it. There's even a term, AI vampire, that people forget to eat to sleep. So I've been there. I would not recommend it,
You
but
came back. You came back.
I came back.
So I think it's safe to say that you're moderate AI enthusiast. I find myself healthy skeptic about AI, so I think these two perspectives may interestingly resonate later during our webinar. Interesting thought that we found some time ago, and I'm not sure if you can say it. Everybody should see it now. Yeah. Sir and Professor Roger Penrose, very well-known mathematicians, physicist as well, a person who was honored with the Nobel Prize, had a wonderful interview some time ago, and it was not about the AI, but he said something very, very interesting that I really like. He argued that AI is the wrong term. Like it was coined many, many decades ago when AI as a tool, as application didn't exist. And he argued it's more, he would prefer to call it artificial cleverness for a reason, because it follows rules, a lot of rules, but has no consciousness and no judgment. And I found it very interesting in terms of implementation of AI in different domains of our life, company life, but especially in operations. And again, for two reasons. First of all, and I think this principle is pretty much understood in the world, at the end of the day, it's the human that makes decisions. AI can help us inform the decisions better, but it's a human that makes the decisions. Secondly, AI will follow rules. So we better know what rules AI follows in our operations. If we just tell ChatGPT or Claude, whatever, do this and that, it would be great if these tools understood their rules and we understood what they follow. All right, let's move on.
Building on what you
Mm-hmm.
just said, yes, cleverness is a very nice way to put it. So, just one simple example. If we ask ChatGPT or an LLM, what is the capital of France?
Mm-hmm.
Then it will answer with probabilistically, it will say 99% it will be Paris, but there can be 0.1% a city of
Mm-hmm.
Paris. Both citations are correct,
Oh yeah.
but the second is less likely. So if we would run the prompt 1000 times, there is a chance we would get the answer Paris very often, and
Mm-hmm.
from time to time, the city of Paris. However, we will never get, I mean, there is a probability that it will be Germany, but it's 0.0001.
Uh-huh.
Well, it will not happen.
Yes.
This proves just one point. You cannot rely that the answer will be always the same. So you need to be very cautious how it's working and how you can protect yourself from these mistakes.
Mm-hmm. All right. You mentioned LLMs, large language models. We quite often say AI, AI, AI. Everybody writes about it on the internet. But very often when we think about AI nowadays, we mainly talk about LLMs. So can we go a little bit deeper?
Which was for me confusing is that we have different providers which are doing the same thing. We have three major companies, that is OpenAI, Anthropic, and Google, who have produced accordingly. OpenAI has ChatGPT with the
Mm-hmm.
family of models. Anthropic has the family of Claude, Opus, Sonnet,
Mm-hmm.
Haiku, and Google has Gemini. And the important thing here is it doesn't matter which model we use. They have tendencies to be better at some operations. However, this is all the same. So you can switch providers and you won't lose any capacity. They only allow you to have access to a large language model that is trained. They are maintaining it, so you don't have to do it for yourself. However, this is just a brain.
Mm-hmm.
So an LLM, as I mentioned, it can answer some questions, but you need to interact with it. And for this, there is a term called harness,
Mm-hmm.
which you can imagine a little bit more like a body that allows the brain to interact with the world. So we have eyes. So this allows the LLM to see files on our computer, folders, not images, but image as a file that then
Mm-hmm.
can be transformed into text so that the LLM can understand it. We have memory. So there's the term context, which is very important. This allows the LLM to remember what you talked about with it, so you don't have to write the prompt over and over again like at the beginning in 2024. The harness has hands, so hands is maybe a little bit abstract, but if you
Mm-hmm.
have to reach to a web page and read the content, if
Mm-hmm.
you have to write a piece of code, if you, yeah, maybe these two examples are enough.
Mm-hmm.
An LLM cannot do it. So we need code around the large language models to interact with the world. That's the harness for. And then again, the companies that we mentioned provide those harnesses. So
Mm-hmm.
this is the ChatGPT interface is a harness. You have a web interface where you can type, it gets transformed into a series of prompts and then passed to the LLM. Also, Anthropic has Cloud Code, which is very popular currently. Microsoft has Copilot, and Google has Gemini and Workspace. You can show it on the next slide.
So you have some of them listed, yeah.
The interesting fact is that all providers are from the USA. So obviously the biggest ones we will have in the USA, they are popping up local, like DeepSeek for China. And yeah, so there will be also a topic where we want to have security in our country, then we would use providers from our country.
So just to sum up, for those of you who are pretty new to AI or not so deep in IT technology, that might be quite confusing. So we have a company, let's say Google. Google has its own model, let's say Gemini, one of its version, and have its own harness, also known as Gemini.
Yes.
That might be confusing. The most popular, in my opinion, looking at what I can read on the internet, would be ChatGPT. Everybody's ChatGPT, and they say it's AI. Technically, it's not AI. It's an application using certain LLMs that the company OpenAI produced. So it's a harness, basically speaking. Why this is important? Because what we will do today, we will talk about how to use certain LLMs, or even not certain LLMs, how to use certain harnesses that are exposed to different LLMs and apply them in your operations, but we will skip this layer related to tools. We are not here to pitch use Copilot or use Gemini or use ChatGPT. We believe that introduction of AI to support your operations is or should be LLM agnostic and harness agnostic. Whichever tool you will use, you need to prepare for the same, and your goal should be similar. But I think that's the story for the next chapter. Did we miss anything here?
I would say I would highlight once more what you just said. So we should not get used to one company, to one provider. It's more about building. We will talk about building a system where you can switch out the technology and still have the results. So if we communicate with ChatGPT, we do it in one way. If we communicate with Claude, we do it in another way because the tools are programmed to be this way. However, we need an abstraction layer. If one company goes out of business, we want to continue our operations. That's why it's important not to put everything into one basket.
I would say it's not only the risk of going out of the business, but for instance, if one company increases the license fee, that would be it. If one company buys another, if they decide to do whatever else, one of the concerns, perhaps at the end of the webinar, we'll tell more about it. It's about how reliable these tools could be for us, and that's quite essential. All right, let's see what we have next. So when we say AI, despite the theory of harnesses, LLMs, and so on, we see a lot of applications here, from fraud detection, spec-driven development, vibe coding, to creating workflow automation agent systems. We just listed here a few. I would say there could be 100. But I, in general, see, I would say three different trends where people typically, or where organizations typically look at the AI. One would be very popular nowadays on the internet, replacing employees, especially programmers. So instead of programmers, we have AI agents, we have vibe coding, spec-driven development, and so on. That's one theme. And intentionally, we're not going there today, all right? We're not going there, absolutely. Second theme would be that many IT companies simply produce AI solutions for their customers. And that's a case of Primotly, for instance. We are quite keen in image recognition. That means that if we have a customer that needs software and part of the software requires image recognition, object recognition, computer vision in general, we provide such a solution. That's AI, right? But it's a different AI. It's not replacing our programmers with AI or expanding their capabilities. It's simply adding the solution. And the third, not so obvious to many organizations area that we see, at least for today, is to use AI in operations, not in order to replace people, but automate, speed up, increase efficiency, be a better company. So we will focus on that aspect purely. And if we focus on operations now only, there are three general topics that we immediately see that AI can help us. First, and that came out with introduction of large language models, rapid processing of long form content. Could be text, obviously. So I don't need to read an agreement of 300 pages. AI can do it for me or can write it for me, amend, give comments. But also of other things like voice. We heard about transcripts of meetings. AI can transcribe it, read, tell us, summarize it, for instance. It's about pictures as well. Instead of writing a memo down, I can write it down on my own, take a picture, and I know what it was about. So processing of large contents, that would be it. Second one that I can see, and I think it was popular before AI was introduced. It's simply now better and faster. It's automation of workflow, automation of processes, especially these repeatable tasks that are not maybe very critical, but they're pain in our operations, and we want to speed that up. That's the second big area. Third one would be decision making, but Lord, not making decisions, but informing the decisions, giving us more data, or introducing certain information way faster. So I think these are three quick wins in terms of not yet specific activities that we can look at, but quick wins in terms of what good looks like or could look like. Now, if we go a little bit deeper, I know you have to say something, and perhaps that's the next visual. How people typically on organizations introduce these three. These are these 5 layers. Over to you.
Could you go back
Sure.
to the previous slide? So one thing that I believe is amazing that you mentioned is the possibility to automate. And in the past, automation was done. We have 8NN, we had Make, we had something like Zapier.
Yeah.
Probably it's not that popular.
Power BI as well, to some extent.
Yes. It required specialized knowledge to create something. So I believe all of us knew that we are doing repeatable tasks that are boring. However, we never had the capabilities to solve this problem ourselves. Now, with in the age of AI, or in the age of the generative AI, so that AI is generating content, this is now possible. And every person can become an engineer without going to university, studying, and can build those small tools for themselves. And it's an opportunity and it's a trap. So it's excellent if you could go now to the next slide, because this fits right into it. We have different levels of AI capabilities, or when we talk about a company, we can do AI on different levels. At the very basic level, there are businesses that do not require access to the internet. And if you are not in the internet, or you are not computerized, then AI is not for you. And
Absolutely.
This is obvious. Then we have the bottom layer, where people individually go to ChatGPT via the web browser and search for information, which is already incredible, because you have a place that knows everything, and it can formulate, and you can talk to it as long as you want. So it can explain it to you in the way you process information, not as static text on a page that you need to read and understand. Then we have the next level where AI has been injected into the tools that we all know and love or not. So, for example, Gmail, and then it's in corporate, we have Microsoft Outlook, I believe it's for smaller companies, it's Gmail. We have PowerPoint presentations, we have documents, and now we have this little chat window at the bottom that can help us to search in the documents, to edit PowerPoint slides, and so on. And this is everything is, we are getting it with the SaaS that we are buying. Yet another higher level is if we use a harness like Cloud Code, where we have the LLM on our local computers and the harness has access to our computer. So we can have local knowledge. A simple example, we take an email, copy it into a simple text file, we process it with Cloud Code to generate a reply, and we send the message.
So like a personal assistant for me on my computer.
Yes. At the beginning, you have a personal assistant, and then you have a personal assistant who remembers what you did in the past with it. So you can build on this knowledge. However, this is on individual level. So I will do it for me, you will do it for you. We want to be a level higher. How can I work on something? For example, Claude has skills that allow us to, in a human language, explain how the program should execute something for me. And once I figure it out, let's say I work a lot with documents and I'm good at styling, I can explain how to do it, how to reproduce it. Now I would like to share it with you. This becomes only available at the highest level if we look at the organization as a whole. And yeah, this will be our talk, how to connect those things, where if we do it without any plan, then we will have random pieces that do not fit together. That's why it's important to look at the organization as a whole, identify processes that we have there that are currently governing the organization, and then look how we can build bridges between parts of the organization, how the data should flow, how information, not data, how information should flow from the beginning till the end. So how from an email I get the content out to my marketing team, that they're aware that we have a new project. The project is about image recognition, and the use case is we would like to recognize stickers in the city where you have warning stickers for electricity, for example. And beginning with an email, we already have that there's someone in the world with a need to analyze a sticker that is representing a warning sign. And we can funnel this information back to marketing that can post about it, that Primotly is solving problems in the image recognition niche, recognizing yellow error stickers. Before, someone would need to go to marketing, prepare materials, formalize thoughts, and pass it on. We are talking about a system that will recognize those informations, understand them, and allow you quickly to pass the information on.
So if I can sum it up somehow, when you look at bottom two levels over here, we couldn't talk about automation or introduction of AI in operations, right? No AI capability, that's pretty obvious. If you use AI as a Google search, expanded Google search, that's true. The middle layer over here, so we are using AI in applications because it's built in, as well as the fourth one, counting from the bottom. So I'm using AI on my own. This is a certain way to introduce AI in operations, but it is not global in terms of the organization. So where we believe the majority of benefits are, because one thing is to give each and every of my employees a personal assistant, AI assistant. Another one is to build lively system that manages knowledge of the entire company. We've seen it with one of our customers, right? That few people used AI, project managers used AI, and they used it to create certain presentations, offers, reports. And each of the reports look differently in terms of structure, in terms of font, sometimes colors, branding. There was a logo of the company, not always in the same corner, because each of them approached differently. If there was one shared base, knowledge, standards as well, that all of them could use, that would be way different. And how to achieve it, perhaps that's the moment for us to talk about this one.
I would like to build one more thought. So
Yeah.
you captured it very nicely. On some level, we can have a personal assistant. However, the personal assistant doesn't have much capabilities.
Yeah.
And to give all the assistants the capability, how we do things in our company, is, I believe, one of the biggest compounders that we can do. So one person who really knows how to do this part of the process can describe it, and then everyone in the company can benefit of nicely formatted documents without doing it themselves.
When we were preparing to this webinar, we thought and we concluded that there are three certain levels, three certain horizons where you could think of introducing AI in your operations. In order to talk about it, I'd like to talk first of all about two interesting dimensions. If we don't want to introduce AI for individual employees, but we want to build a system that will manage knowledge of our company and therefore speed up the operations. We need to talk about two factors, two dimensions. The first one is complexity of implementation of it. It will be a sort of organizational change or transformation, if you want. And I can imagine that, well, we can go wild. So we can transform the entire company, HR, finance, admin, operations, project management, everything is linked as one big system. Or we, as a company, we may decide, okay, we are having local improvements, just for project management, for instance, or just in the professional product management. Just may mean hundreds of people still, but the complexity of that implementation would be different. Another factor, another perspective is, and this one is very forgotten, in my opinion at least, operational readiness of the organization to do it. Because if you want to, let's say, speed up or automate a certain process, it would be good if the process exists, if it's standardized, if we know what's the input, what's the output, typical one. If the governance looks like in the company, in an organization I supported a few years ago, I asked them, could you show me your governance standards? They told me we don't have governance. We have governances, at least 50, because there are 50 departments doing similar things. There was a big mess from the perspective of how they were organized. So if you have chaos, fragmentation of data, no processes, that is different to organization where processes are structured, mapped, we have organized data, access to it. I would like to be on the right-hand side when we talk about the bottom dimension over here in general, no matter if I want to introduce AI or not, but some homework needs to be made, needs to be done before we actually go into AI conversation, which leads us to the matrix. So if complexity of implementation is pretty low, meaning you are not introducing something huge in the entire organization. You're focused on something small, and there's no need to prepare a lot upfront in terms of operational readiness. We will talk about quick wins, something that each of you could introduce, not personally for you, because that's not the subject of our webinar, but already for the organization. Do we have a good example of that, Maciek?
I think the best example would be transcribing of meetings
Fair enough.
because it has no external dependencies. So if you have meetings in the company, this is what you need to transcribe such a meeting. There will be maybe resistance that people don't want to be recorded. There might be, you need to introduce a formula at the beginning of the meeting. Hello, I would like to inform you that this meeting is transcribed. We will use it only internally. And at least from our experience, no one had yet an issue with it. We even had one situation where the client decided, since the meeting is recorded, he was talking like in the courtroom. Please have the transcript record that I said this and this, which is then not used by us because we see the biggest win in introducing transcribed meeting is that the people on the meeting can focus on the meeting, not on making notes, not on thinking, okay, how will I remember it to give a summary or minutes. So yeah, this is a good example. There's no external dependencies. There's no already existing system that you need to connect to. You don't need to really train your employees. It's just decide on the provider. There are many, and it's always good to test before you introduce a large change in the company. So I believe the literature is calling it early adopters. You have usually heroes in the company that are willing to be the driver of the change, and yeah, I would start transcribing their meetings.
It's interesting because that was also on my mind. Meeting transcript, quick win everywhere. But then I thought, no, not everywhere. Actually, what we talk about here today, so introducing AI into operations, building knowledge management system for your company, it all depends on the company. Let's imagine a hypothetical situation that in our company, the majority of conversations is done in cafeteria in the office during lunch. I will not transcribe these meetings because they are not recorded. Or maybe old-fashioned kind of company where we call using mobile phone, not Zoom, Teams, or Meet by Google. That would be slightly more difficult situation. Or a situation where we didn't prepare a lot. I remember it also from one of previous customers. They introduced automatic transcription of all meetings that were done online, but they forgot to look at the settings, global settings, and all the transcripts were totally public to everybody. So we could have a meeting, but whoever else in the company could read what we talked about, and we don't want it quite often, depending on the situation. So yeah, it's a quick win, but it's not that you can do it bluntly. Perhaps there is more behind. Let's come back to the matrix. Indeed, if the change requires a lot of operational readiness, so you need to prepare data, you need to write down your processes. We moved a different quadrant, bottom right one. We call it requires preparation. It's still not a huge investment in terms of complexity of change, but we need to prepare this stage before we go into that conversation. Do we have a good example of such AI introductions?
The documents formatting. The requirements that you that you need. Why it's not a quick win. First, we need to know how a document, how good looks like. So if the company does not yet have standards for example, a product requirements document, then it would be good to first introduce a standard. So we want to think what we want to, why there are certain informations in this document, where are they placed, and how they should be presented to be easily understandable. And this is the preparation you need to do. Once you have the form of the document that you then want to populate with data, then you have the transcript, and you can connect the transcript to the document creation skill and say, please take the content and create this document with these rules. And then we have the so-called human in the loop approach, where the human controls if the AI did not do any mistakes.
In all agent systems that we use, or AI that you use even on your own, we would talk about skills. So literally a description that we give to AI on how to do certain things. If, for instance, my task is summarize the meeting and list all action items based on the transcript, then the skill says how to do it, what I'm really interested in, what I'm not interested in, and the format is repeatable. But in order to develop such a skill upfront, we perhaps need to have a conversation in our company about, I don't want to use the word standard, although it works here, a policy, a procedure, a way how things should be done, and not by one individual, but by everybody. Fair enough. If we want to do the same at very large scale, not one department or profession, but the entire company, we will go into the quadrant that we know named high investment. I wouldn't say it's way more complex or complicated. It's simply at larger scale, so more needs to be prepared, and perhaps more investment in terms of time and money is required. Therefore, like in any organization change, I would recommend starting with a sort of pilot MVP approach, an experiment. I'm not sure if you want to add something here.
So with high investment, if we compare to quick wins, you can always disable the transcript, and people can go back to taking notes. So there's no impact if this piece of the process would be dropped. However, if you would like to connect systems, and this will be the highest form, you mentioned skill. I'm more leaning towards workflows because this explains a little bit better. So a skill represents a workflow that can be repeated. This workflow requires some input. So we will get the input from during a meeting, there will be maybe an action item that someone needs to send a summary of the meeting, and this will be spoken in the meeting. Then we use a voice model to transcribe the meeting. Once we have the transcription, we analyze the content with large language models, identify that there's an action that was assigned, for example, to Maciek, is responsible to send the summary after the meeting. So I could now take this to-do and put it into our to-do management system, which is already connected in the company. So each department has their own space, they have tasks assigned, and their managers see if the task is done, if it's delayed, if they need help. Once we have in place the quick wins that are gathering data, then we have the workflows identified, which tell us how the data should flow throughout the company. Then we can start managing the whole system. Once we manage the whole system, we need to be sure that the system is operating, it's up, and it doesn't have any mistakes, which you don't have with the quick wins. You just disable the transcript, it's over. Here, you break the process line, you break one part of the process, and someone cannot do their work because the information are not reaching that place. So it's higher investment. You need to do it. You need to be serious about it, and you need to think upfront, prepare the data points, and architecture the whole thing.
Mhm. Which leads us perhaps to the fourth quadrant, intentionally highlighted with different color here. If complexity of implementation is high, you want to automate operations in the entire organization, for instance, but as a company, you're not ready for that. So no policies, no procedures, or multiple processes, procedures, no standards, data is fragmented. You will automate mass, and that's one and the only quadrant that we do not recommend going into, because if you have a mess in operations in general and you want to introduce AI to speed it up, you will speed up with the mess that you have. And this is absolutely wrong. Interestingly, I see and I foresee for the next couple of years more and more companies entering that trap, because before AI, when they wanted to introduce whatever agile ways of working to replace their so far waterfall approach in project management, very often they had the same problem. In my previous professional life, I quite often was asked to introduce lean and agile approach to software development in companies with very strict heavy metal waterfall. And my first thing that I realized quite often was you're doing waterfall in a wrong way, even. So even the old ways of
How can you do waterfall wrong?
Waterfall is a certain process, certain family of processes that have certain rules. We have phases. Each phase has an input, desired output, and so on. And you can do it wrong as well. If this is, I'm not saying if it's not documented or there are wrong standards, not necessarily this, but if you simply don't follow the rules. And you can find it everywhere. I saw plenty of project managers not into, let's say, risk management, which is at heart of the profession of project management. But that's completely different story, I would say.
So
Mhm.
to add, yes, AI or artificial intelligence can be, you can think of it like an amplifier.
Mhm.
And it's really, if you amplify noise, then you will get more
Nice,
noise. If
absolutely.
you amplify a symphony, then you will hear a loud symphony. So if we have misinformation in our system or in our AI orchestrated organization, then we will spread this misinformation throughout the whole organization. That's why data quality, when it comes to AI, there's always data quality, and it's very important to
Mhm.
make sure the quality is good, because if we amplify quality, it's good. If we amplify a mess, as you mentioned, well, it will end badly.
Mhm. I would say looking at data and cleaning the mess, preparing for such organizational transformation is critical, and it's a very important condition, but I wouldn't start with that. If we talk about operation readiness only, I think we even listed it here. The very first thing we recommend you start with is to understand clearly the goals and priorities that you have related to introduction AI into operations. Uh, just a few hours ago, before this webinar, we were looking at certain memes, and there's one meme: "Who we are, CEOs, what we want, AI, why we don't know, when, now."
Wow.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, this kind of approach, like in any organizational change, which at the end of the day is an investment, you need to have clear goals specified. And if your goal is we want to introduce AI because we want to introduce AI, this is wrong goal simply. It's not outcome based. Any introduction of any tool, and I like to see AI as a tool, one of many tools, needs validation. We need a business case. Okay, we want to do this. It will cost that money and time, and these are the results that we want to see. Without having that, without priorities saying what is worth automating with AI, what shouldn't be automated at all, that would be waste of money. So that's the bottom line, in my opinion. Secondly, what we've just discussed, so having our processes mapped, having information flows mapped as well. And I mentioned lean methods, value stream mapping, for instance, would be one of ideas how we could do it in organizations. Again, it's less about creation of standards, more understanding how your company works right now, and maybe changing it a bit before you introduce AI. The revolution of AI reminds me 10, 20 years ago, uh, digital transformations in companies. Like I had a company that used paper, and now we want, instead of paper documents, we want to have everything in cloud, on servers, on computers. And bad companies did it in that way that they copied what was there on paper into computer. Brilliant example would be, with all respect, all the forms, the tax forms that we used to have in Poland. And if you wanted to fill it in originally years ago, digitally, that was literally the paper form with same fields and colors that you need to fill it in, not with your pen, but using your keyboard. There's no digitalization, no automation, no benefits of using computers. With AI, it could be the same. So first, map your processes, information flows, then think what should stay as it is, what should be skipped completely because AI will do it, how we can do it. The same data, its quality, its consistency, what we have, what we don't have. Then the fourth one, in my opinion, also important, ownership related to it, accountability. Ownership of processes, for instance. Quite often enter a company, there's a process of doing something, let's say hiring people, and we're not sure who makes which decision. Depending on recruitment, sometimes it's HR, sometimes hiring manager, for instance. Again, I don't need a standard that is one fit all, but we need to understand ownership. We need to understand accountability of certain steps in here, especially that it will be tempting that AI makes decisions for us. It shouldn't. We should. So we need to be clear who's accountable for what decisions that are informed by AI.
AI is
Mhm.
introducing also a shift how we work.
Oh
So
yeah.
once an organization has introduced AI, it becomes clear that a project manager can now generate graphics like a designer. So we can use it to assist our work, for
Mhm.
example, to visualize some decision processes. Project manager can create maybe a not reliable application, but they can generate an MVP, a proof of concept,
Or a mock-up at least, right?
just to show developers this is the direction I want to go. And this has such an impact on how we work that we need, as you mentioned, what probably happened in the Polish system at least, we took a document that was on paper, which had some explanations that need to be structured because they're on paper. There's no
Mhm.
scroll, there's no hiding, show more. So they took it one to one into the digital system, and it took multiple years to understand,
Mhm.
hey, this doesn't make sense. We can hide sections. We can tell the user, please tell us, would you like to buy a flat, or you want to buy a building that will be used
Mhm.
for commercial purposes? There is a different form for it. Previously, it was in one form. Now we can select the drop down and then guide the user differently. Here we will guide how work is performed in the company differently. So we need to re-identify the not the skills, but the, I used a great word for it,
Workflows.
workflows. The workflows was the word. Yes.
All right. Final bullet point here, something that we need to understand as well. Uh, Ideally upfront system architecture, but also access control. If we talk about knowledge management systems, so a system that has data, standards, processes, workflows, access to our instant messenger, access to mailbox, access to transcript of meetings. We'd rather understand who, in terms of users, not AI, but who, in terms of user, has access to what. If we have 70 parallel projects in our organizations, should every project manager has access to data from all of them, or just those that are managed by me? Some standards, for instance, should be given to everybody, but access to certain knowledge, certain information as well, not necessary, and we need to think about it as well. We talked about quick wins, right? And that reminds me also, perhaps I will repeat myself, the meeting transcript. If your settings are such that you can send meeting transcript to anybody also outside company, is it good? Maybe it is, maybe it's not. It changes behaviors of people also. We realized also in our company that we used to have meetings, and I'm pretty sure all of you heard about it. But there's a meeting, let's say 10 people, and at the end of the meeting, everybody says goodbye and they say, "Hey, Maciek, can you stay for a moment? Let's talk about something." We don't do it anymore. We don't stay because it will be in transcript of the entire meeting. We actually switch off and call each other again. You're using separate link, separate meeting, because it will be recorded differently. Tools shape behaviors of people, but that's perhaps a different story. That leads us to the last topic that we prepared for today. Just a few words about compliance and security. At least here in the European Union, we have some regulations that are binding and important. GDPR, for instance, related to its data residency. But in general, any cybersecurity concerns are quite important. An anecdote, if I may. You heard it already. I go to gym. I go to gym from time to time, and it was few weeks ago. After the training in the cloakroom, I heard two pretty senior managers. I'm pretty sure both of them are directors. One of them in an insurance company, another in a bank, and they had a random chat. I didn't participate in it. I just was listening, and one asked the other guy, "Hey, do you have AI?" And the other said, "No, the board of members said, no, we are forbidden. We can't use it. What about you?" And he replied, "Yes, same in here. We can't do it." And I was quite intrigued. Why? Why big companies with a lot of money, a lot of competition, I guess everybody would like to cut costs at least, or speed up with AI. They were forbidden. Why? Because compliance. And I engaged in the conversation later with them to understand what is it about, because our perspective on compliance is a little bit different. These companies, these two examples of companies, they choose the easier way or the safest way. No, because it's dangerous. But we believe that actually, with some preparation, again, operational readiness is critical. You can introduce AI systems in your operation in such a way that it is secured, it's GDPR compliant, and all the data stays in Europe. What do you think about it?
If there is a problem, people tend to find a solution to it. If we don't want our data to go to the USA, we can set up LLMs on premise, so on local computers where we can manage the access, as well as if we buy enterprise level access to ChatGPT or Cloud Code, our data is not used to teach the models. So we are not certain if it's true. There were scandals where data
Absolutely.
was used by Meta, by Google without our permission. However, at least legally it's binding that they're not allowed to, which you don't have if you buy a personal account. So it's important to know who uses AI in your company, what tools they use, and go ahead of people, not allow them to experiment for themselves. For example, that they don't get the idea to take a legal document from the company internally and put it into a publicly available LLM. This would be probably not so good. Yeah, so rather I have my employees trained, instructed how to use it, what to look out for, and to use the company's accounts.
That's interesting. And I will jump a little bit earlier. We were over here. Actually, in my opinion, it's way safer for a company if we operate on one of the top two layers over here, because that means we have invested in a certain organizational change with AI. We, I believe, prepared, we are ready operationally. We have some standards, procedures. We told our people what to do, not what to do. Because if we don't have it, some people will be on level 2 or 3. So they will have their own private or even company ChatGPT and Copilot, and you have no access, you have no control as a company over what they are talking about. I've seen many times lawyer assistants working on a contract, copying the entire contract into a free version of ChatGPT. If it's free, it's not free. Everybody understands that. You don't know what rules apply. You don't know what the SLA is, where the data is. This is wrong. This is bad. And very often, as a company, you don't know it. You don't know about it at all. So what I would recommend absolutely is think about it as yet another bigger or smaller organizational change project and have it on the radar, because if you don't have it on the radar, then you have a problem. We have one customer that is very, very much against AI to such extent that they even asked our software house to use their own laptops while producing software for them, because their laptops are protected and we cannot even open any LLM, any harness page at all. But that's kind of an extreme. But even in that company, I heard there were situations that we managed to convince them that this is safe if they do it right?
Yes, if we delivered one project using AI 100, I mean, not right. The code was generated by AI and humans were overseeing it. And since it was produced outside and then there were penetration tests and security tests, so you can develop quickly outside of such rigid structures, and then it's just the compliance way of introducing the program application change into the safe environment.
So coming back to GDPR and related constraints, I would say maybe it's not easy. It might be difficult in some cases, but it's not impossible at all. All right, I think we are at time. In a moment, we'll move to Q&A. You can use chat window to type your questions. We try to address all of them. But before that, a word from us. I believe that AI can give you a lot in terms of your operations. However, before AI delivers any value to your organization, you must first become operationally understandable to yourself. So you need to understand your processes, your data, your ownership's accountability. So everything that is typical for organizations that are simply well organized and operate in a good way. From our side, that would be all. Let's see if we have any questions. All right, I think we have. So, question. What are the 3 things a company should do tomorrow if after this webinar they want to start using AI in a practical way? What do you think?
Oh, it depends on the readiness level of the company. As you mentioned, depending on if we have processes, if we I would introduce first quick wins, see how my team reacts to the introduced change. If we need heavy change management, where we first need to prepare our people to be even open that there is a new technology, that they are safe, that they are not. It's not that the technology will replace them, but it's crucial to be able to use the technology efficiently, because people that do not use the technology will be replaced by the technology.
True.
It's like with any technology that we had till now. Once you have the quick wins, then I believe I would jump to the highest level and see, okay, once it worked, once we see how people will react to it, how we can now introduce it on a large scale, which I would start with a series of workshops to understand where our data is coming from, how we are gathering it, how the system should be designed.
I think you also you didn't forget about it. You assumed it's simply there, but I would perhaps explicitly said before that a company needs to understand why. Not necessarily not only where they want to use AI, but why. What's the goal? What's the outcome? That would be pretty important. But I agree with you. Quick wins, it's quick and it's a win, and it doesn't require a big transformation. Maybe a little bit of thoughtful thinking. But then think where, how, why you could introduce it, what you want to do. Uh, Before the AI revolution, so 2, 3, 4 years ago, in my previous company, we were really into automation. We wanted to automate a lot. We mapped a lot of processes because tools to automate that exist. But then we looked at the investment and we realized that if we hire literally one person full time in one of the countries providing services for way lower salaries that we have here in the European Union, it will be 20, 30 times cheaper than to invest in automation that we need to maintain, by the way. And that's what we did. So thinking about that not only from the perspective of tools that we have right now available, but also the investment perhaps pays off. I hope we answered the question. There's one more similar. What tips do you have for companies starting to implement AI? Tips.
Do not buy the highest version.
Oh no.
And do not go right away into API, because API means a lot of token usage, which generates a lot of cost. We already see that the biggest companies are dialing back on AI usage because they do not have the cost management does not fit their plans.
Absolutely.
So I would first do it on a small scale, understand how it can help me, because it's not only about optimizing processes, which is the thing that everyone tends to look at. But here we have a capability that was not there before. So an entity can connect a vast amount of information into one place. No human, no system was ever able to compact the information and make it usable without exponential effort. And now this is built in at the ground, which will change probably every industry. And that's why you need to sample, you need to understand. And once you understand, people who build the company will know the best how to leverage large language models and the possibilities that are now on the market.
We didn't talk much about money, but there's a question, and we have space for one more, definitely. How should we measure return on investment from AI implementation when the impact is time savings, fewer errors, or faster decision making? Interesting question.
Could you repeat the question?
Sure. How should we measure return on investment from AI implementation when the impact is time savings, fewer errors, or faster decision making? It's interesting, right? Because
it's interesting. You need first metrics to know that something has improved, which now takes away the argument we don't have time for metrics, we just operate. You cannot
Absolutely.
improve something without measuring it first. So I would first introduce, first I would try to identify the area that we want to improve.
Mhm.
Then I would measure how this area performs currently, which would prove to me that it can be improved. Then I would introduce AI,
Mhm.
and then you have a clear improvement.
I would even go, well, in a similar way, I would say skip AI for now. You have a certain situation, your company operations, you set a goal, I want to improve it. You set metrics, could be OKR, for instance. I have a certain objective and key results. And one of the ways or your ideas to improve the metrics is to introduce AI. And here, of course, we measure the cost of that introduction because it means perhaps that we need to write something, some software, introduce something, pay for licenses, but also spend time. But when we observe other metrics, the indicators that we have, that would be the most sensible way. I would say the safe answer would be measure it in the same way as you would measure any other organizational improvement, where on the one side is investment in money or money and time. On the other side is not return on investment in money, but for instance, fewer errors indeed, or any other metrics that don't touch directly the revenue or costs that we have.
I believe that AI is, or introduction of artificial intelligence is a major disruptive force. However, we have good practices that
Yeah.
are still valid. For example, a plan is nothing, planning is everything. We are in a space where the rules of the game change from week to week. For example, Anthropic introducing limitations to plans where there were not previously. So we can't just make a plan and then do waterfall and hope it will be good. We need to observe
Yeah, absolutely.
how the tools behave, if they improve, if the costs change.
All right. Thank you very much. I believe that would be more or less all from our side right now. If you want to know more, these are email addresses to us. We will be really happy to talk about our experience, how we did it in operations at Primotly, but also what's possible and what we already tried with our customers. Any final message from you, Maciek?
Only what you just mentioned. We provide AI consulting services where we do with company leaders exactly what we did in our company. So identify the best places where AI can bring improvements and then also do it.
Mhm. Absolutely. Thank you very much. Please be in touch and have a great day or night wherever you are. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.